Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Did you poop today yet? That was the first thing my boyfriend asked his sister at dinner. No hello, no how are you, just that question. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth and my jaw locked. My name is Haley and I was 25 that night. I sat at the corner of his small table, trying not to stare. His sister looked down at her food like a kid caught cheating. She mumbled, "Yeah, this morning," and picked at a piece of chicken. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes fixed on her face. How many times? He asked, like he was checking bank statements. She shrugged, shoulders tight, then held up 2 fingers without smiling. Any cramps, any straining, anything weird? He added, like this was normal. I forced a laugh that sounded way too bright in that cramped space. I feel like I just walked into a doctor appointment, I joked. Nobody laughed with me, and the silence hit harder than the question. My skin prickled and I suddenly wanted my shoes back on. His sister shifted in her chair and rubbed her stomach slowly. I was backed up a couple days ago, she said, almost whispering. He nodded like a coach reviewing game footage and not her body. You took the stool softener, right? He asked, already reaching for his phone. I watched his thumb move fast over the screen, calm and focused. He opened some app like he had done this 100 times. Okay, so you went Tuesday night, then nothing Wednesday, he muttered. He glanced at her, waiting, like he needed confirmation for some report. She sighed and counted on her fingers, lips moving without sound. Thursday morning, then again before bed, she finally answered. He tapped everything in, every detail, like he was clocking work hours. I chewed without tasting anything and pretended this was totally fine. Drink more water tonight, he told her, voice firm but almost gentle. Your cycle is starting soon and you always get backed up then. He said it easily, like he was reminding her to bring an umbrella. My stomach dropped because I had never told him my cycle schedule. Wait, I cut in, trying to keep my tone light and playful. You know her period dates by heart like that? I asked, forcing a smile. He looked up, annoyed that I interrupted, eyes flicking between us. Of course I do, he answered like I was the strange one here. His sister stared at her plate and rolled a pea with her fork. She forgets to track it herself, he went on, tapping his phone again. If I do not stay on top of it, she gets sick. He said sick like it was a fact, like that ended the conversation. I nodded slowly, even though nothing about this sat right inside me. I told myself some families are just more open about bodily stuff. I told myself I did not grow up with siblings, so I lacked context. Still, I could feel my heartbeat in my throat with every new question. Any weird discharge? He asked next, barely lowering his voice at all. The word made me choke and I reached for my water too fast. His sister's cheeks burned and she shook her head without looking up. He leaned back, satisfied, like he had just solved a small puzzle. I set my glass down and wiped my fingers on a napkin slowly. So you guys always talk about this over dinner? I asked, careful. He shrugged and speared another bite like this was no big deal. It is just health, he said. People need to get over the shame. On some level I agreed with him, and that confused me even more. Talking about digestion is not evil by default, and I knew that. But something about the way she hunched in her chair felt wrong. It looked less like support and more like surveillance with extra steps. His phone buzzed and he glanced at the notification, then at her again. You still having that bloating from last week? He asked between bites. You told me it was worse after dairy, remember that? She nodded tight and I started counting my own breaths to stay calm. I tried to steer the talk somewhere else, anywhere else at that point. So how are your classes going? I asked her, leaning forward a little. Her eyes flicked to me, grateful, like I had thrown a rope. Before she could answer, he cut in with another bathroom question. Did you log Saturday night like I told you? He asked, checking his phone. You said it hurt and then never followed up with details. He frowned like a disappointed boss waiting for a missed weekly report. My throat burned and I suddenly hated every sound in that room. She swallowed hard and nodded, voice thin when it finally came out. I texted you, you just did not respond, she told him quietly. He blinked, opened their chat, and scrolled with a tight jaw. Fine, he muttered, you need to be clearer next time anyway. Right there, that word clearer, something clicked in a very bad way. He was not just asking if she felt okay, he was managing her. He talked like her body was a project that kept missing deadlines. I looked at her hunched jowl, stares, and felt a pulse of anger rise. If I had listened to that feeling then, things might have ended sooner. Instead, I smiled, tried to smooth the edges, tried to be reasonable. I told myself I did not have the full picture yet, which was true. I did not know this was only the surface of a much darker pattern. The car doors shut and I went straight for it. That whole dinner was lodged in my throat like a stone. I turned toward him and asked why he tracked her bathroom trips. The engine noise filled the pause while he clenched the steering wheel. For her health. He stared ahead, jaw tight, like the road personally offended him. She has issues, you heard that, somebody has to keep an eye on it. He tapped the wheel with his thumb, a steady, irritated rhythm that grated. I heard you quiz her about bowel movements and discharge at dinner. My voice shook a little, which pissed me off even more inside. That is not normal brother-sister conversation, not like that. I waited for him to laugh or soften, he did neither. He exhaled through his nose and shook his head once. You sound like my parents when they still pretended to care. He glanced at me, then back to the traffic, eyes narrowing slightly. They are always working, so I track things so she does not end up in the hospital again. Again. That word hit hard, even though I had never heard that story. Okay, but she is an adult now, she can use a calendar. I kept my tone even, but my fingers curled tight in my lap. She forgets. His voice rose a notch, then dropped again like he caught himself. You did not know her in high school, she used to black out from cramps. He shrugged one shoulder, like that detail justified every notification on his phone. A horn blared behind us, and he jerked the car forward through the light. So your solution is to monitor every bathroom break for the rest of her life. The words came out sharper than I planned, but I did not walk them back. If anything, hearing them out loud made the whole thing feel worse. He laughed once, harsh, no humor in it at all. Listen to yourself, you are making it sound dirty when it is not. His knuckles were pale on the wheel, like he was holding that argument in place. You think I enjoy talking about my sister's constipation, really? That is exactly the problem, I answered more quietly than before. You do not seem bothered by it, you seem invested. His head snapped toward me for a second, eyes sharp, then back to the road. Invested means I care, and I refuse to apologize for that. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I ignored it on purpose. I watched his screen in the console light up with her name again. He glanced down, then up, like he did that 1,000 times already. He did not open the message, but his mouth pressed into a hard line. What now? I asked, nodding toward the glowing screen between us. He flicked the notification away with a fast, irritated motion. She just sends updates sometimes, it helps her stay on track, he muttered. He shoved the phone into the cup holder like he wanted it out of sight. Updates about what exactly? I knew the answer, but I wanted him to hear himself. He blew out another slow breath and drummed his fingers on his knee. Water intake, digestion, cramps, general stuff, he answered, voice going flat. Do you realize how intense that sounds from the outside? I leaned back, trying to put some space between us in that small car. If you were a doctor, you would need consent forms for that level of detail. He scoffed, and the noise felt like a slap. You have a twisted lens on this, he threw out, almost laughing. Only someone with a dirty mind hears what you are hearing right now. The words stung, partly because a tiny part of me wondered if he was right. I stared out the window, cheeks hot, and hated that doubt creeping in. He took my silence as an opening and pushed harder. She trusts me with this, that should tell you something important. His hand left the wheel for a second to gesture between us. If you cared about her well-being, you would be grateful I am involved. There it was. The quiet accusation that I cared less because I felt uncomfortable. I bit the inside of my cheek and tasted metal on my tongue. Caring does not mean controlling every bodily function, I answered, voice low. He laughed again, lighter this time, like he had already won. You are overreacting, you barely know her patterns. Patterns? He used that word like she was a chart, not a person. Do you even ask if she wants you tracking all this? I pushed. Or did it just sort of happen, and now she does not know how to stop? He shifted in his seat, shoulders hitching once under his jacket. She is the one who comes to me. I am just there when she needs help. The car rolled into his driveway, and the engine cut off with a shudder. We sat in the dark for a moment, both of us breathing hard. He unbuckled a ND turned toward me, face just a faint outline. If this is a deal-breaker for you, you should be honest, he said quietly. That landed right in my chest. I was not ready to make that call yet, and he knew it. I am being honest, I answered, hand already on the door handle. I am telling you this feels wrong, and you are pretending I am crazy. He did not follow me right away when I stepped out onto the driveway. I heard him stay in the car for a few seconds, phone buzzing again. By the time he came inside, his screen was dark and his expression brighter. Whatever she had just texted him, it pulled him even deeper into that role. I remember standing in his hallway, shoes in my hand, heartbeat loud. I could have dropped it there, could have told myself to adapt. Instead, I looked at him and knew this was not the last argument about her body. I knew I would go looking for proof because my instincts were not backing down anymore. His phone slid out of his pocket and landed beside my knee. He dropped onto the couch and kicked off his shoes with a groan. I need a shower, he muttered, already pulling his shirt over his head. Text me if anybody important calls, or if Paige messages. The bathroom door shut and the water roared on. His phone lit up again, bright rectangle pulsing against the cushion. My heart picked up before I even checked the screen. I already knew whose name was about to flash across it. A banner stretched across the top with her contact photo. Under her name, 3 words hit me right in the gut. Just Pete again. No joke, no emoji, just that little report like it was routine. I stared at it until the banner faded and the lock screen returned. My thumb hovered over the display while the shower kept pounding. I knew this was the line and I was crossing it. But honestly, he had pushed me right up against that line first. I tapped the screen and the phone opened without a code. He had turned off the lock earlier while checking a delivery. His messages popped up, the top thread sitting right there. Her name, a little heart next to it, and a recent timestamp. I clicked into the chat and everything inside me went quiet. The most recent line matched the banner I had just seen. Above it, more of the same, stacked one after another. Small poop kind of hard. Drank 2 glasses of water. Cramping now bad. Each update had a time noted under the bubble. Some only minutes apart, others a few hours between. His replies sat under most of them, short and clinical. How long did it take? Rate pain 1 to 10. Any blood or mucus? I scrolled up and the day changed, but the pattern stayed. Morning reports, lunchtime reports, late-night check-ins. Whenever she skipped a day, his tone shifted sharper. Why did you not tell me yesterday? You know we track daily. You cannot ignore this stuff. The longer I scrolled, the more my stomach knotted up. There were apologies from her mixed into the health notes. Sorry for being gross. Sorry I forgot to text. Sorry I know you worry. It read like a script she had been handed years ago. I hit the top of the visible thread and kept dragging upward. Weeks blurred past in quick flicks of my thumb. I saw references to their family trips, her exams, random meals. Every normal event came paired with data about her body. Like her digestion sat at the center of their entire relationship. The shower kept running, but now I heard him humming lightly. That casual little sound grated harder than any argument before. This was not a one-time panic over some medical scare. This was a lifestyle for him, a whole private ecosystem. I backed out of the chat to steady my breathing a little. On the home screen, a strange icon sat in the recent list. White square, blue cross, his sister's initials underneath in bold letters. I knew I should stop, but my fingers moved before my brain decided. One tap and the app opened to a dashboard with graphs. At the top, her full name and age stared back at me. Under that, 3 separate sections with neat little labels. Bowel log. Urine log. Cycle log. Every box had numbers, arrows, and tiny notes written by him. I touched the bowel section and a list filled the screen. Dates on the left, times next to them, then descriptions. Loose, small amount, no pain. None today, likely dehydrated, monitor tomorrow. Large hard urged at 3 p.m., straining reported. Each entry tagged with source, page text like he was cataloging inventory. At the top right sat a tiny filter icon already set to last 90 days. I tapped it and saw options for year to date and all history. My chest tightened as I chose the last one without thinking. The list stretched farther than I could scroll in one sweep. I clicked into one random day from months back. Inside, a more detailed view opened with extra notes. Pre-period constipation pattern continues, advised increased fiber and Wa. Under that a bullet. Reminder to check consistency tomorrow before class. He had written those words about his younger sister's bathroom habits. I backed out fast and moved to the urine section. Same format, same exhausting precision, different gross focus. Burning reported, advised cranberry supplement and fluids. Urged but no output, asked about anxiety level. There were tags for urgent and resolved like this was a ticket system. The cycle section hit me hardest for some reason. Not just start and end dates but symptom breakdowns. Clots mentioned, recommended call doctor if persists. Severe cramps, had trouble walking, reminded about breathing exercises. Discharge reported as thick white, no odor, likely normal. My face burned reading that, and it was not even written about me. At the bottom of the screen sat a section labeled reminders. I tapped it and my skin crawled all over again. There were alerts for specific times of day with labels attached. Text page to poop if no report by 4 p.m. Ask about color after first period day. Check if wiped blood or hemorrhoid again. One reminder matched the night we had dinner at his place. I recognized the date, the exact time he started grilling her. Confirm bowel movement before dessert, ask about pain rating. I almost dropped the phone right then and there. My hands shook so hard I had to rest the phone on my thigh. I stared at that one line, replaying his calm tone at the table. He was not being spontaneous or just overprotective that night. He was literally following a scheduled alert about her digestive system. Water shut off down the hall and my pulse kicked even higher. I snapped out of it and forced myself to move. First step, I whipped out my own phone with clumsy fingers. I opened the camera and aimed at his screen, breath coming short. I took one photo of the reminder page, then another of the logs. The shutter sound felt deafening, even though it was barely audible. I flipped to the message thread and grabbed that too quick. Little rectangles of proof lined up in my gallery like evidence. His voice drifted down the hall, relaxed, asking about dinner plans. I scrambled to clear the open app and return to the home screen. Then I locked the device and set it back exactly where it had fallen. By the time he walked into the living room, my hands were buried under a throw pillow. He grabbed the phone on his way past the couch without a glance. "Everything good?" he asked, ruffling my hair like nothing was off. "Yeah," I answered too quickly, forcing my lips into some kind of smile. He unlocked the screen, glanced at whatever had popped up and smirked. Another buzz, and this time he actually opened her text in front of me. "Okay," she peed again, "at least she is drinking water now." He typed something fast, thumbs moving with easy muscle memory. "You know, if I do not keep this up, no one will," he added. I watched his fingers fly across the keyboard, pretending to scroll my own feed. On my phone, the new photos sat hidden in a fresh album I named nothing. I knew I had crossed a serious boundary digging like that. But sitting there while he logged another intimate detail, I also knew I was done pretending this was harmless. I shoved my phone in his face before he could kiss me. We were still in his living room, TV humming, his hand on my waist. "Explain this," I told him, my voice way calmer than I felt. The screen showed his reminder to ask his sister about pooping before dessert. His fingers tightened on my wrist for a second, then let go. He barely glanced at the photo, and his expression iced over fast. "Why are you going through my stuff?" he asked, voice low and controlled. He did not sound embarrassed, he sounded offended. "You set an alarm to confirm her bowel movement," I pushed. "During dinner, while I was sitting right there with you both." My thumb slid and I pulled up the second picture, the long list. "Then there are all these entries, and you know exactly what they are." He snatched the phone out of my hand and locked it in one motion. "You had no right to look at that," he snapped, jaw clenched tight. That is private health information, not gossip for you to snoop around. He held the phone like a shield between us, eyes hard. Health information, I repeated, almost laughing because my nerves were fried. You built a full report on when your sister pees and poops. I pointed at his pocket where his own phone sat heavy. You talked to her more about her bowels than you talked to me about my day. His mouth curled, part smirk, part disgusted. Do you hear yourself right now? He asked, shoulders pushing back. You are the one making this gross, not me. He shook his head like he could physically fling my words off. Ask literally anyone, I shot back, hands up, palms open. They will tell you this is not a normal sibling hobby. I felt my heartbeat thud. Ding in my wrists, hot and uneven. You even wrote, remind her to check consistency in there. He flinched at that line, getting quoted out loud. That is a medical term, he fired back, stabbing the air with one finger. You are reading it like porn because your head lives in the gutter. The word porn made my stomach twist like I had been slapped. You think I like reading about her constipation, he went on, pacing now. I hate that she has these problems, but nobody else listens to her. He dragged a hand through his hair, breathing hard through his nose. I stepped up and you are punishing me for it. This is not listening, I argued, following his movement with my eyes. This is control. You set timers to check her bodily output. I heard my voice rise and forced it down, but the anger stayed. You even tag her messages as source like she is a lab sample. He stopped pacing and stared at me like I had insulted his entire existence. You went through my personal medical notes and now you are judging my wording. A bitter laugh escaped him, short and sharp. Do you want her to end up in the ER again? Is that what you want? I froze at that because he kept throwing that ER thing like a card. If she is that sick, where is her doctor in all this? I asked. Why are you acting like a one-man clinic instead of getting her professional help? He looked away for the first time, eyes flicking toward the hallway. You would not get it, he muttered, voice flat, hands on his hips. Doctors rush her, they dismiss symptoms, they make her feel crazy. His gaze snapped back to me, bright with defensive anger. I actually listen, I remember the details. That matters when you advocate. Advocating does not mean tracking every trip to the toilet, I countered. You log color, texture, time spent, all of it every single day. I heard myself saying the words and wanted to scrub my own mouth out. You told me I was twisted for even noticing, but you are the one obsessing. That hit him and he stepped closer, eyes narrowed, chest rising fast. Twisted is exactly what this is, he said, pointing straight at me. You sexualize something that is purely functional and necessary. He jabbed his finger at my chest again. You looked at my notes and made it dirty. I did not sexualize anything, I shot back, voice cracking on the last word. I saw the sheer volume of information you keep about her body. My hands trembled and I clenched them together so he would not see. And I watched her shrink into herself every time you grilled her. His shoulders stiffened at that. She is not shrinking, she is relieved someone cares enough to track patterns. He pulled his own phone from his pocket and waved it like proof. She thanks me all the time, you saw the messages. Yeah, I saw the apologies, I answered, my throat tight. Sorry I forgot to text, sorry for being gross, over and over. I took a breath that did nothing to steady me. That is not gratitude, that is fear of disappointing you. His mouth opened, then closed, like he wanted to argue that specific word. She has anxiety, he said finally, voice rising on the last syllable. The structure helps, the check-ins make her feel safe, not trapped. He stepped even closer, close enough that I could see the twitch in his cheek. If this was really about her comfort, I asked, refusing to back up. Why are there reminders in there that have nothing to do with emergencies? I lifted my chin and held his stare. You literally wrote ask about wiping blood again like it is a task on a list. His tongue pressed against his teeth like he had to hold words back. It is called being thorough, he ground out, every word deliberate. That is how you notice when something changes and might be serious. He tapped his phone screen as it lit up, like the device backed him up. The screen showed another new notification from her, sitting unread. He glanced at it, then angled the phone away from me. You even have her sending you live updates while we argue, I pushed. Do you hear how insane that sounds out loud? He rolled his eyes so hard it almost looked rehearsed. She knows I am on top of this, that is why she checks in. He typed a quick response, his thumbs moving fast, shoulders relaxing. You are jealous of how close we are, that is what this actually is. That accusation threw me for a second. Jealous, I repeated because my brain needed a second to catch up. You think I want your sister to text me about her bowel movements too? I let out a short disbelieving laugh, sharp and mean. He folded his arms, phone still in his hand, chest puffed out. You resent that she trusts me more than you do, he went on. You resent that I have history with her, that we have routines. He tilted his head, studying me like I was some strange case. My face burned not from guilt, but from sheer rage at being twisted like that. I resent that you know more about her rectal bleeding than her actual doctor, I snapped. I resent that you act like her body belongs to you to monitor. My voice shook, but I did not back down from his stare. Silence stretched between us, tight and dangerous. For a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes, something almost uncertain. Then his jaw locked again and he shoved it down. You are blowing this way out of scale to justify snooping through my phone, he said. I looked because my gut was screaming that something was off, I answered. And what I found was way worse than anything I imagined. I lifted my own phone from the table and opened the hidden album. If you want to pretend it is normal, I can show this to other people. His whole posture changed at that. He stepped forward fast and grabbed my wrist again, grip vice tight. You are not showing that to anyone, he hissed, eyes wide now. That is her private health data, and you will not drag her through your paranoia. Pain shot up my arm and I yanked free, breathing hard. Then fix it before someone else has to, I warned, holding his gaze. Because if she ever finds out how detailed this is and how long it has gone on, she might feel betrayed too. The word betrayed hung in the air between us like smoke. He shook his head, almost panicked now, the first crack in his certainty. She asked me to help, she relies on me, you do not understand our dynamic. He paced again, running his hand over his face, refusing to look at me. If you care about her at all, you will drop this and let me handle it. And if you care about her at all, I answered, quieter now, you will ask yourself why you need this much control to feel useful. My heart hammered because I knew this was a line we could not uncross. Because from where I am standing, this is not just about her health anymore. He finally looked at me, eyes bright and furious and a little scared. If you cannot accept how I support my family, maybe you are not the right person for me. His voice was flat, but his hands shook slightly at his sides. He threw the words out like a dare, waiting to see if I would blink. I did not answer that challenge yet, even though my decision was forming. Instead, I tucked my phone into my pocket and took a step back. This conversation is not over, I said, more to myself than to him. Because I knew the next move would not be with him, it would be with her. Can we talk without him knowing? That was the exact message I sent his sister. No emoji, no explanation, just those 8 words on her screen. My thumb hovered over unsend while the typing bubble flickered on and off. Is he okay? Her reply popped up first, not what I expected at all. Then another line appeared before I could answer. Did I mess something up? You did nothing wrong, I typed, chest tight, back already sweaty. I just need your opinion on something important. I watched the dots return, stop, return again like she kept chickening out. Okay, she finally wrote, I have an hour between classes tomorrow. We picked a coffee spot near her campus, neutral territory. I stared at the confirmation on my screen and almost canceled twice. If he checked her location, this would blow up in my face fast. Still, I hit lock and told myself I was done ignoring my instincts. The next day I got there early and picked a table near the door. My leg bounced under the chair so hard the whole thing shook. Every time the door opened I expected him, not her. Deep down I knew if he walked in first I would fold. She showed up clutching her bag strap with both hands. Her eyes swept the room before she walked all the way in. When she spotted me, she managed a small tight smile. She kept glancing back over her shoulder as she took the seat. Did something happen? She asked, voice low, fingers twisting around her straw. He has been kind of on edge, I thought maybe you two fought. I swallowed and pressed my palms flat on the table to steady them. We argued, I answered, about how much he knows about your body. Her grip on the cup tightened, knuckles pale, gaze dropping fast. About my stomach stuff, she asked, already knowing the answer. I nodded once and pulled my phone out, screen still dark. I saw his app, I told her, more of it than he thinks I did. Her head snapped up and her eyes went wide. You went into his logs, she whispered, leaning forward, face draining. I felt like the worst person alive for a second. Yeah, I admitted, and I took screenshots. She let out a shaky laugh that sounded nothing like amusement. He is going to explode if he finds out, she muttered, looking away. That stuff is the only thing that keeps him calm about me. The way she phrased it made my stomach twist all over again. I am not here to get you in trouble, I said, keeping my tone steady. I just need to know if this level of tracking feels okay to you. I unlocked my phone and opened one image, thumb covering her last name. I will only show you if you want to see it. Her hand drifted across the table and stopped halfway, fingers hovering. For real, it is bad, right? She asked, eyes flicking up to mine. I know he goes overboard sometimes, but he means well. That last part came out automatic, like a line she had rehearsed. I turned the screen toward her before she could talk herself out of it. The photo showed the reminder list with all the detailed prompts. Her gaze skimmed down the entries, lips parting a little. She stopped at text page to poop if no report by 4 p.m. and just stared. I thought those were for him, she breathed, almost too quiet to hear. Like to ask how I am feeling, not that exact wording. Her finger hovered over the next line, barely touching the glass. Ask about color after first period day, she read and blinked hard. She pushed the phone back like it burned. I did not know he wrote it down like that, she said, voice thin. He just tells me to keep him updated so he can see patterns. That last word came out like something she had heard far too often. I swiped to the next image, the one with the long log. Do you want to know how far it goes? I asked. Her jaw worked like she was chewing on the choice. Yeah, she answered finally, I need to know what he is actually storing. I laid the phone back in front of her and let her read. Her eyes moved faster at first, then slowed near the middle. When she hit the line about wiping blood, her throat bobbed. Monitor tomorrow, she whispered, repeating the note in disbelief. I text him when something feels off, she said, fingers trembling now. I did not realize he was keeping every single thing like this. A tear slipped out and she wiped it away quickly, looking annoyed with herself. It sounds disgusting written out like that, and it is my body. My chest ached watching her fight herself that hard. You are not disgusting, I told her, leaning closer, elbows on the table. What is gross is him needing this much detail about you every day. I let that hang, giving her room to take it in. She shook her head, ponytail swaying, eyes fixed on the table edge. He says if he does not track, doctors will miss things again, she murmured. He likes having all the info, it makes him feel safer. She snorted softly. Honestly, I thought I was the one asking for help. Do you remember asking him to build a whole system? I asked. Or did it start simple and just keep growing until this? She chewed her lip thinking, then stopped and dropped her hand. It started with him reminding me to drink water, that is all. I felt that answer like a punch because it confirmed what I had suspected. And now he times how long you spend in the bathroom, I said. Her head jerked up again, eyes searching my face. How do you know that? She asked, voice sharp for the first time. He texts me if you take too long during visits, I told her. He makes little comments like she has been in there a while. I exhaled through my teeth, trying not to let my anger spill over. You never notice the way he waits outside the door. She sagged back in her chair, shoulders slumping. I thought he was just worried I would pass out or something, she said. He tells me to keep the door unlocked when we are home together. Her hands wrapped around the cup again, like she needed something to anchor. Do you actually want that? I asked, keeping my voice soft but firm. Not what keeps him calm, what makes you feel okay. She stared at the table for a long beat, chest rising and falling unevenly. I want my body to be my responsibility, she said finally, not his homework. That line hit so hard I almost forgot to breathe. Then this is not working for you, I pressed gently. Maybe it helped once, but right now it is crossing lines. I leaned in. Do you feel like you can tell him that directly? She barked out a short, humorless laugh and shook her head. If I say I do not want updates anymore, he will panic, she said. He will bring up the time I got sick and ask if I forgot that. She rubbed her forehead like the memory was a bruise he kept poking. What about your parents? I asked, lowering my voice even more. Would they back you up if you said this feels too intense? She made a face like she had swallowed something bitter. They think it is weird but convenient, she answered, because he handles it. So there it was, the missing piece. Everyone had gotten comfortable with him being the watchdog. And she had gotten stuck under his watch, too scared to step out. Would you want me there if you bring it up? I asked. Her eyes snapped to mine, full of raw, nervous hope. You would actually sit there with me? She asked, voice shaky. If he starts twisting it, you would tell them about the app. Her fingers drummed against the table now, restless energy. Finally surfacing. I will not blow up your life without you, I promised. But if you are ready, I will tell the truth in front of them. I tapped my phone screen where the images sat buried. And I will show only what you are okay showing, not more. She inhaled slowly, then let it out like she had been holding it for weeks. His face is going to be terrifying, she muttered, staring past my shoulder. He gets so cold when people question how he helps me. Her mouth twisted. But I am starting to think this is more about him than about me. Hearing her say that out loud felt like a door cracking open. You are allowed to tell him what is too much, I reminded her. If he actually cares, he will adjust when you say stop. I paused. If he refuses, that says a lot about what this really is. She nodded slowly, absorbing that, eyes shining but focused now. Okay, she said, sounding older in that moment than I had ever seen. You can come over Sunday when they are all around. She swallowed hard. If I freeze, you start talking and I will back you up. The plan settled between us, heavy and real and risky. I knew walking into that house would probably demolish my relationship. But watching her twist her straw to shreds, I also knew I could not back out. Because at that point, staying quiet would have made me part of the surveillance too. His mom opened the door and my stomach lurched like I had stepped off a ledge. He hovered behind her in the hallway, arms folded, jaw locked. Paige stood farther back with her backpack still on one shoulder. I knew if I turned around right then, I would not come back. We should all sit, his mom murmured, wiping her hands on a towel. He shot me a look that said this was already a waste of time. Paige slid onto the couch beside me, close enough that our knees touched. He stayed standing near the TV, like he wanted the high ground. What is this about? His dad asked, dropping into his usual chair. He looked from me to his son, trying to read the air. I pulled my phone out and laid it face down on the table. My pulse hammered because this was the point of no return. Paige inhaled like she was about to dive underwater. I asked Haley to help me talk about something, she started. Her brother's head snapped toward her, eyes narrowing in an instant. He had not expected her to speak first, and that shook him. It is about the health tracking, I added, keeping my voice steady. About how much of her private information is stored on his phone. His mom stiffened, eyes flicking to him, then back to me. He barked out a short laugh, already gearing up for defense. Are you serious? He scoffed, stepping closer to the coffee table. You dragged my girlfriend here to criticize me in front of everyone. He turned to Paige, eyebrows raised in wounded outrage. You told me you liked having structure, remember that? She flinched at his tone and looked down at her hands. I like not feeling alone when my stomach hurt, she replied softly. I did not realize you were writing everything down in that app. Her fingers twisted the strap of her backpack until the leather creaked. His mom blinked fast, confusion turning into something sharper. Writing what down? She asked, leaning forward, elbows on her knees. I flipped my phone and opened the first screenshot with careful hands. Reminders to message him about bathroom stuff, I answered, heart pounding. I slid the screen across the table so his parents could see it. His dad picked the phone up, holding it closer to his glasses. His lips moved as he read one line, then another, then stopped. Paige stared at his face like she was waiting for a verdict. Text Paige to go if no report by 4, his dad read slowly. He looked up, expression stunned, turning toward his son. You set an alarm to check whether your sister used the restroom. Even he could not keep the disbelief off his voice. That is taken completely out of context, my ex snapped, face flushing. Those are reminders so I do not miss warning signs with her condition. He reached for my phone hand tight, but his dad pulled it away. Control slipped out of his fingers and he hated that. Show them the other one, Paige whispered, barely moving her lips. My hand shook as I opened the long list from the logs. His mom dragged her chair closer, eyes already glossing with shock. I knew once she saw, there was no way to unsee it. Dates, times, notes about texture and pain and wiping. His mom covered her mouth as she read down the screen. Her shoulders started to tremble, not from crying but from fury. She looked up with eyes that could cut steel. You cataloged everything, she said, voice low but sharp. Every symptom, every trip, every detail she texted you. She slapped the phone down like it had burned her fingers. This is not care, this is obsession. He dragged his hands through his hair and laughed without humor. Yo, you have no idea what you're talking about, he shot back at her. You two checked out years ago while she was fainting in the bathroom. He pointed at Paige, using her as a shield again. I asked for support, Paige cut in, louder than before. Her voice cracked, but she did not back down this time. I did not ask you to make my intestines your full-time project. That line landed like a slap in the center of the room. You told me to keep you updated, he argued, turning on her now. You begged me not to leave you alone when you were sick. He took a step toward her, hands out like he could pull her back. Everything I did was because you could not handle it yourself. She pushed up from the couch so fast her bag slipped off. I could have learned, she shot back, eyes bright, cheeks wet. Every time I tried to handle stuff alone, you made me feel reckless. Her chest heaved and she wiped her face with the heel of her hand. His dad stood up slowly, chair scraping loud against the floor. This is too much, he said, voice steady, eyes never leaving his son. Tracking symptoms is one thing, demanding live updates is another. There was a warning in his tone I had never heard before. I was filling the gaps you left, my ex snapped at him. You never went to appointments, you never listened when she complained. He pointed again, stabbing the air like that made him right. If I had not taken over, she would have ended up back in the hospital. Stop using that to control me, Paige shouted, fists clenched at her sides. Everyone froze because she rarely raised her voice at anyone. I remember the hospital visit, I also remember you checking my underwear after. Silence slammed down so heavy I swear I heard my own heartbeat. His mom's face went completely still, like everything just snapped into focus. You checked what? She asked, each word clipped, jaw rigid. He opened his mouth, shut it, then stumbled over half a sentence. For the first time, he actually looked afraid of the room. I was checking for blood, he blurted finally, eyes darting to each of us. She was scared and asked if it was normal. I was helping. Paige shook her head slowly, tears streaming, arms wrapped around herself. I asked if I should call Mom, you told me she would overreact. His dad dragged a hand down his face, looking older by a decade. You had no business doing that, not as her brother, he said quietly. That is what doctors and mothers are for, not older siblings with tracking apps. He sank back onto the edge of his chair, stunned by his own son. My ex turned his fury on me like a spotlight. This is what you wanted, right? He snarled, eyes blazing. You came in here, stirred everything up, and humiliated me to my family. He jabbed a finger toward my chest like I had committed some crime. What I wanted was for her to feel safe in her own body, I answered. My voice shook, but I did not drop his gaze. What I wanted was for someone besides you to know how deep this went. It finally felt like I was standing on solid ground. You could have just broken up with me, he shouted, stepping closer. You did not have to drag them into it with pictures and accusations. Spit flew at the edges of his words, he was that worked up. Paige moved between us before he could get too close. This is not about your pride, she told him, shoulders squared. This is about me telling you to back off my body. She sucked in a breath, steadying herself right there in front of everyone. I am done sending bathroom updates, I am done being your case study. He stared at her like he did not recognize her. You cannot manage this alone, he said, incredulous, voice dropping low. You will forget, you will get sick again, you know how that ends. The desperation underneath his anger finally showed. I will get a doctor, I will use my own apps, she replied. I will talk to Mom. I will accept actual medical advice. She shook her head, tears still coming but her voice stable now. I am not texting you every time I use the restroom again. His mom stepped to her daughter's side without hesitation. If she needs help, we will figure it out with professionals, she said. She gave his arm a sharp shove when he tried to argue again. You do not get to override her just because you are scared. He looked from her to his dad, then back to me. There was nowhere left in the room that agreed with him. He laughed once, a short broken sound, more shock than humor. So you are all just going to treat me like some kind of pervert, he asked. No, I answered, and every eye swung toward me. I think you started trying to help and then got addicted to control. I took a step toward the table and set my key down in front of him. And I am not staying with someone who will not hear the word stop. His face crumpled for half a second before he pulled it back together. You are throwing away years because you miss Ria. Data on a screen, he spat. You never understood how much work I put into keeping her stable. He gestured at Paige like she was an example in his argument. She is not a project, I replied, feeling strangely calm at last. She is a person telling you she wants boundaries and privacy. I nodded toward my phone on the table, still lit up with evidence. You can delete that app or you can keep it, but either way I am done. Paige reached for my hand and squeezed hard, fingers cold and shaking. Thank you, she whispered, voice breaking around the words. Her brother looked like the floor had dropped out from under him. For once, he had no one in the room backing his version of care. I walked toward the door without waiting for a response from him. Behind me, his mom started talking about doctors and new plans for Paige. His dad asked for the app login, voice flat, no room for argument. I did not turn around because that part was their work now. Out on the porch, the air felt strangely thin and sharp. I heard the door close behind me, muffling the voices inside. My phone buzzed once with a new message, but I did not look. I stepped off their front step and left the sound of his notifications behind.